Hey C3 kids, I hope you've been well. I know you've been gone for a while, but I've really missed you, and I'm so excited to be back and reading the biggest story with you again. Now we're up to chapter 6 of our 10 chapter book, which means we are over our halfway mark. I wonder if you remember what happened in the first 5 chapters of the book. In the first chapter of the book, we were in the garden with Adam and Eve and the snake. In chapter 2, we met a few people who made some mistakes, but we realized that our God never gave up on his people. In chapter 3, we met Abraham. In chapter 4, we went all the way to Egypt and we looked at all these different plagues. And in our last chapter, we learned about the 10 commandments. Now we're at chapter 6. Let's go. God's people had a hard time not copying everyone else around them. This was especially true when it came to having a king. Although God warned them how bad kings could be, they just had to have one. So eventually, God gave them a king. Be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. The first king was Saul. He was very impressive height-wise and pretty disappointing in every other way. The second monarch, young David from Bethlehem, was definitely much better. In fact, before we get to the king, there's almost no one more important than King David. When David wasn't busy sinning, which he did in some really big ways, he was a good, wise, merciful king. Many good things happened to God's people when David was in charge. They were victorious and prosperous and blessed. Can you see David? David and the Goliath. Look at David. Look at how big Goliath is. Wow. But the best thing that happened was what God promised would happen. God told David that he would always have a son to sit on the throne. He promised David an everlasting kingdom. This was good news for David, and even better news for God's people. It meant that God had not forgotten the guarantee he made in the garden. A deliverer was on his way, and now everyone who had ears to hear knew he would be a son of David. But the next son of David was not the one they were looking for. Solomon started off on the right foot, but he ended up tripping quite spectacularly. After Solomon, the kingdom split into 2, with Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Neither kingdom was very good. God punished Israel first, then Judah. In the course of 400 years, God's people would go from top dog to dog food. They'd been kicked out of their promised land, just like Adam and Eve had been kicked out of their paradise. And worst of all, David's house and David's throne were no more. The future looked bleak, especially for the promises of God. The end. Although that chapter kind of ended on a pretty sad note, I'm here to tell you that hope is coming. And it's actually coming in the form of a baby. I wonder if you know this baby's name. Maybe we'll meet him next week in the next chapter of the book. Who knows? For the craft this week, we are making a memory dinosaur. This dinosaur will help you remember different key Bible verses, but you can also use it to decorate your room. Thank you for reading chapter 6 in The Biggest Story with me today. As you all go back to school, we're still praying for all of you that you guys will be safe and happy and that you'll be able to learn a lot of new stuff in school. Alright now, bye! I'll see you next week as we read The Biggest Story together. Bye!